you doing? Good. How are you?
Good. Nice to meet you.
You too.
Yeah. I've been excited to have this conversation. So, how was your day?
I think it was good so far. I recorded an episode of my podcast this morning with Neil deGrasse Tyson, the scientist, and it was pretty fun. So
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, you have
yeah,
many great podcasts. I've been watching them. It's interesting.
thanks.
So, did you get a chance to read over the questions I had set up for you?
No, I have been looking at that, but you can ask me anything.
Okay. You like to be a surprise then. All right. Okay, so we're just gonna touch base on some topics like politics and social issues,
Mhm,
like reparations for slavery,
mhm,
like things that I noticed that you've been mentioning a lot, like you talk about a lot, and like racial bias,
mhm,
like the Black Lives Matter movement.
mhm.
Your favorite type of publications, because I know you're an author, right, or writer. Uh, I also want to talk about your music that
Mhm,
I really enjoy, and some
mhm.
of your inspirations and your future projects that you have. And I guess we start off. What led you to become interested in politics and social issues? And how did you get started with as a writer or a commentator?
I wasn't all that interested in politics when I was a kid. Then I went to Columbia when I was about 19 or 20 years old, Columbia University in New York. And I started noticing that people were very obsessed with racial identity in a way that I thought was mysterious. Suddenly, you would hear kids saying in the campus newspaper that they experience racism every day on campus. And I became curious why everyone was so obsessed with race in what was clearly one of the least racist places that a Black person could be. So I became interested in that. And through becoming interested in understanding my immediate social surrounding, I began to become interested in the wider political landscape of the country. And I started trying to write for my campus newspaper, and then eventually started writing for Quillette, which is a Australian magazine run by Claire Lehman. And that's how I came to be a writer.
Oh, that's awesome. I guess you have some really strong values, and I can see like on the way you write. I guess I also noticed you are mixed race.
My mother's side is Puerto Rican and my dad's side are Black American.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm Brazilian, but
Oh,
I've
okay.
been in Canada for probably 15 years now.
Hmm.
And I also noticed like some of the issues that we have Latino. I guess growing up in Brazil, we suffered a lot racism.
Hmm.
Like it's always been a problem down there too. I think it's everywhere. Uh,
Hmm.
you have been outspoken in your criticism and ideas of reparations for
Hmm.
slavery. Can you explain your position and what alternatives you would propose for addressing the systematic racism in America?
I think we should address the racism that exists today by implementing policies to create fair processes today. I don't think that we have to or should try to compensate people for what happened to their great 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 grandfather, for example. I think
Mm-hmm.
when you try to do that, you're trying to do something that's impossible, which is undo the effects of the distant past. And what we should be trying to do is make sure that people are treated fairly in the present, because that's actually something that is sort of somewhat possible to achieve, as opposed to
Yeah,
what's
for sure.
impossible, which is to balance out the scales of all of human history for hundreds of years, right? I think that
Yeah, I think it almost gets embedded onto your blood pretty much, and you bring that your whole life. It's hard to fix the past, but improving some social programs to help people get better opportunities,
Mhm.
I think will be one of a good start, anyways.
Yeah.
Your views on racial bias in policing have been controversial, and can you
Mhm.
discuss your perspective on the issue and how you arrived at your conclusions?
So I arrive at my conclusions on the basis of evidence, and everyone personally has their own stories with the cops and what the cops have done to them or their family, and all of that is valid in any particular person's case. But when you're trying to look at the whole country, you have to look at the best research, and the best research has found that the cops are more likely to rough up a black suspect, but they're not more likely to actually pull a trigger on a black suspect. So that's, you can think two things at once, that there is racial bias and racism in how the cops deal with black people. But when a cop, the decision to shoot, to pull the trigger, it has not been shown that there is bias between black and white. So people have run with that narrative during 2020 and in earlier years with BLM. There was often cases where a cop would shoot unarmed black American, which happens like, maybe 20 times a year, roughly on average. But it happens 40 times a year to white Americans, roughly. And those ones don't end up making the news as much because there's no racism angle. So a lot of people are misinformed about the idea that the cops only shoot black people. The cops shoot like roughly 100 unarmed Americans a year, at least like in the past decade, and it's of all races. So this is a problem. Sometimes
Yeah,
some of those things were warranted, some of them were not, some of them were murder, but that is not actually a racial issue to the degree that people think it is. That's the media. Basically, the media has taken this angle and misinformed people about the overall issue.
yeah, for sure. I can see that. There's a lot of that goes on their narratives that it's hard to break. It's hard for them to actually understand that they're making it worse.
I
But
think the media,
sorry, go
it
ahead.
makes, oh yeah, it makes, the media actually creates fear, unnecessary fear in black people, so that when, if you're a black person that gets pulled over but by a cop, sometimes you're freaking out thinking they're going to shoot you because the media has pumped this fear into you, when in reality your odds of getting shot unarmed are less than your odds of getting struck by lightning, roughly
Yeah, for
equivalent.
sure. Yeah, you can also use your words to get it away from any situation too, right? And I guess people
Usually.
would just start like freak out and lose control of the situation. You've been critical on the Black Lives Matter movement, but you
Mhm.
also acknowledged the reality of the system. Now, there's systematic racism in America. And
Mhm.
how do you see those two perspectives intersecting, and how you think we can move forward towards a greater social justice and equality?
Yeah, I mean, this is tough because there is racial discrimination throughout society. If you're applying to a job and you have a black sounding name, you're like 30% less likely to get a reply. that's also true for other minorities. It's true for Arabs and for East Asians and South Asians. So, I mean, that's a tough issue to actually legislate about, because there's just no way the government can intrude to my inbox as a business owner and force me to treat people the same. So, this kind of thing is a reality. I think the truth is that it's actually less important than a lot of people think it is, because most of what determines your success in life isn't just like how you get treated by the world. Most of what determines your success in life is what skills you are able to bring to the table. And a lot more is in your control. Even if you're a victim of discrimination, a lot more is in your control than you would be led to believe. So I guess that's how I would.
Yeah, that's good. Like Black Lives Matter. I think the media took it on a different level and used it to create fear. And people were already stressed over COVID too, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know much about it because I've been here in Canada and I don't understand the dynamics of how everything was. But it used on a good intention would be good for society. As someone who is biracial, you grew up in a predominantly white community, right? And how you identify influenced your views on race and social justice.
Yeah, so I grew up actually, the town I grew up in is more diverse racially than America on the whole. So the town I grew up in was like 30% black and like 60% white, which is actually more diverse than like the average place in America. So I wouldn't say I grew up in uh like a white town necessarily. I grew up in a pretty racially diverse town, and I think the effect that had on me being a kid and like having friends that were black, friends that were white, friends that were Hispanic, friends that were Asian, friends that were Jewish. As a kid, I never thought about anybody's race. I was friends with people because I liked them, and that's what moved me. Um,
So, do you also speak Spanish?
un poco, hablo español un poco, pero
I love Spanish music.
yeah, me
It's one of
too.
my favorites.
I actually sing in Spanish.
Do you?
So I'm a musician. Yeah, I'm a musician. I play every Monday in Greenwich Village, and I sing some songs in Spanish. So I'm not really fluent in Spanish,
Awesome.
but my accent is good enough that I can sing.
Do you enjoy like the reggaeton, rap, and
Yeah, I
mix?
do. Yeah, I'm a musical omnivore. I kind of like a little bit of everything. So I do like reggaeton. I also love salsa and like
Yeah.
older music from the 60s and 70s. I also love Brazilian music. I'm obsessed with
Do
Brazilian music,
you?
with samba and Brazilian jazz. So yeah, I'm into all of that. That's like my
You
favorite.
know, I think that's a secret to success is if you go and spend some time in Brazil and make some like music with Brazilians.
Mhm.
You, I don't know, like people down there are so passionate about music that
Yeah,
they would just like, yeah, embrace you.
in
It's
my opinion,
incredible. Like there's so many people there.
yeah, I think Brazil and America have the best music in the world, in my opinion.
Yeah. Do you also dance?
I'm
Like
not a
do you
big fan.
dance or no?
Not really.
Oh, okay.
I
Maybe
make the
we
music,
can have a drink or
music so that
two.
other people can dance.
Oh, I see. Uh, okay, let me just get back here to the questions again. Yeah, let's talk about your music a little bit. So you have released music, like music under your name Coleman.
Hmm.
Can you tell us about this project and how it relates to your other work?
Yeah, so I've been a musician my whole life, and I'm mostly a jazz musician between the ages of like 13 and 18. Around 18 or 17, 18, I started getting really into hip hop, and I started rapping initially just by myself and then at shows with some friends in Brooklyn. So I started releasing rap music when I was like 19 or so. And when I got into writing, I just kind of stopped because I got really passionate about writing, and it was just a very different world, and it was awkward to incorporate my rap identity into it. But yeah, I recently finally released an album that I've been working on for years called Amor Fati, which translates to love of fate in Latin. And
Oh,
I think it's definitely my best work. I'm really proud of it, and I think I've gotten good feedback on it. People enjoy it, so
yeah,
feel good about it.
it's awesome. I've listened to it. Have you released other albums before, or is that your first?
I released a couple mixtapes when I was younger. None of them were really, I think, quite as good as this one.
Okay.
Yeah, I've
Yeah,
released
you
some.
also have music videos too, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, great. Yeah, do you mind if I add some of your music onto your playlist? Like I
No, no.
usually I play a
Yeah.
yeah, okay. I play a lot of Spanish music, like reggaeton and stuff on the station too. There is always a mix of
Nice.
everything, because like we have people from like all over the world that listens to it, like
Mhm.
through games.
Right.
Yeah, there's like the platform that you can use while we're playing game or whatever. You can listen to it. So I
Mhm.
have like quite a few listeners. Yeah, I'll introduce you to them. Does your art intersect with your political views and activism, or is just as a hobby?
I mostly do it as a hobby, but they do also intersect sometimes because, like for instance, on my song Blasphemy, I don't know if you've heard that one. Blasphemy, I really get deep into the subject of racial identity and slavery and reparations, and inhabiting both sides of that debate in the form of a rap song. So I do like, mostly my music mind is kind of separate from my political mind, but sometimes they do intersect.
Yeah, it's good to leave a message out there, right? Because so many younger kids are listening to rap anyways, so it's better than listening to like good music rather than not.
Mhm.
um, yeah, one thing that I find interesting is like how you mix jazz with hip hop,
Mhm.
and it's pretty wicked. I find like I never heard much like that of that type, like like the beats and you say you played trombone.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. What is the process like? Do you usually make them like the melody and the beat, and then you write the song, or
Yeah,
how do you do?
I always make the beat first. In fact, I always actually get the sample and the melodic and harmonic material first, and then I put drums over that, and then I put lyrics over that.
Oh, okay. It's really
That's
hard.
always,
Like I think about how like how to like people make it sometimes like incredible music, and I just don't understand how they like the process is, because for me like I can't like I can think of lyrics but I can't think of the rhythm, or I don't know. It's just two separate things that like for me I guess I'm not an artist, but I listened to a lot of music my whole life. Like my father was a writer, like, and my brother he plays on like a band down in Brazil. He's famous down there. So my whole life was surrounded by music,
Mhm.
and being in Canada is a little different because people here is not as passionate. What advice would you give to your young people who who are interested in getting involved in the social activism and politics?
I guess find something you're really passionate about and try to learn more about it than anyone. I mean, that's basically the path that was successful for me.
Okay. Yeah, you seem pretty young still, and you have this posture about you, like you're very serious. I don't know, like it feels like you're an old soul that been through many lives. I believe that we carry on the experience that we had as a soul, I guess, in
Yeah,
different bodies. I believe in that. So yeah, I just sensed that from you. I don't.
thank you. I appreciate you saying that. You're not the first person to tell me that. I've been told that.
What do you see as the most pressing social and political issues facing America today, and how can we work towards to solve them?
Oh,
Do
wow.
you have an idea?
Let's see. Biggest issues in America right now. It's hard for me to rank them, but I would say the government's ability to effectively deal with crisis situations. I think in some ways I lost quite a bit of faith in the government's ability to respond to a crisis during COVID. And I hope that I fear that there's declining trust in the institutions of government, of media, and so forth. And the less the public trusts the institutions, the harder it is for us to actually solve the problems that are going to come our way in the next 50 to 100 years. So I am worried about that, but in the end, I think I am an optimist in the sense that I think things are getting better over time, even if they don't seem that way on the news. And I do have some faith that humanity is moving in a positive direction.
Yeah, me too. Like I do have faith on that. I guess it's the only thing we can do when most of the things seems to be fabricated around us, and to maybe if it's not, it just seems like it is. Like most
Mhm.
of government, like the government is not really there for the environment of people. I don't think, but themselves. I
Right.
guess like whoever's in power or whatever. I would suggest if we could change something, if why couldn't everybody have a job and do like the government as everybody has one task to do, or half an hour to the 2 hours of your day you just do something, and it will be like a collective way to run things for everybody, right? And I don't know, I have an idea that it could possibly work, but it would be hard to get everybody on the same page. But just eliminate all the bureaucracy. What do you think the current political climate in America will involve and and in the coming years? And what role do you see yourself playing in the evolution?
Yeah, it's really tough to predict how things are going to shake out. Every time I hear someone predict in the next 2 years, this is going to happen, this is going to happen, they're usually wrong. And I try not to make predictions. I don't know where the world is going. Um, but I do know what role I want to play in it, which is I want to be someone that is a trustworthy voice, a reasonable voice, and a responsible voice, and someone that people can come to when you need to get information from somebody that you can trust and that you've known has been reliable in the past. And I want to facilitate conversations between people who disagree. I want to bring people together and help people converge on the truth and offer my communication skills and my reasoning abilities to people that want to have a deeper understanding of the world and our society. So no matter what direction we go in, I want to continue playing that role. I think I do a pretty good job of it, and I just want to keep doing what I'm doing.
Yeah, I can see you being yeah, I can picture you like on your 40s or whatever being successful. Like I think you're already halfway there, so it won't take much. Yeah, just stay true to your beliefs, and people will take you for like face value, right? And that's important. Like it's hard to find people trustworthy people out there nowadays.
It's true.
What inspired you to become a writer or podcast host?
Well, I
Like how
think
did you start in that field?
so. I started out as a writer, and then I
Mm-hmm.
developed a following. But I love podcasts personally as a person, so I consume podcasts a lot. And so it was a very natural transition to me to go from someone that listens to a bunch of podcasts all day to someone that creates my own. So it was really initially I was a customer of podcasts, and I loved them so much that I really pictured myself having my own for a long time. And then finally I was able to do that because I already had a Twitter following from my writing.
Okay. Yeah, it became really big, like really fast too, right? Like everybody has a podcast nowadays, and it's good because like back in the day, there was no like people didn't have a platform to speak out and but now it's good that we do because we can listen to different point of views and different people and backgrounds or whatever. I learn a lot from podcasts as well, and even like YouTube videos too. Like I like watching
Mhm.
conversations. I guess yeah, I've been always been like that.
Yeah.
You have been listed on Forbes 30 and under 30 list for the 2021 in the media category. How has this recognition impacted your career and goals? And what are your goals going forward with your career?
Yeah, I think I mean it's nice to have that Forbes 30 under 30 because having having something like that in your bio makes people take you more seriously. So like at the end of the day, I don't think life is about getting rewards and awards and accolades. But what those do for you is there's a lot of people that just like won't pay attention to you unless you have that feather in your cap.
Yeah,
And Forbes 30 under 30, I think it has opened some doors for me in that way.
yeah. I guess that is some sort of like a gratitude that like you just having your content there. You know what I mean? Like not very many people have that privilege, I guess, to be recognized, right? On being a good writer or a good whatever you're good at. So yeah, it is a good thing. Did it change for you? Like your, I guess it's impacted you pretty good, right?
Yeah, no, definitely.
And you didn't only had that, like you write for different publications, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Like you interview a variety of guests on your podcast, and who do you think they're some of your favorites guests and why?
Okay, so one of my recent favorites is Meg Smaker, who made a documentary film about former jihadi terrorists who were doing a rehab program in Saudi Arabia. That was one of my favorite conversations recently. I had another great one with Mark Andreessen, who is a billionaire and venture capital. Yeah, he's a venture capital billionaire, very smart guy. I had another great one recently with Africa Brooke, who is basically a life coach. And she talked about like her struggles with alcoholism and self-sabotage and how she came to basically change from like a totally messed up, insane person to a person who's so happy and well adjusted that she helps other people become happier and more well adjusted. And yeah, so those are three of my recent favorites.
Oh, that's good. I have to check them out.
Yeah.
I've seen some of them, but you have quite a few, so it's hard to keep up. You have been, no, never mind. I think it's a repeated one. As a fellow and contributing editor at the Manhattan Institute's City Journal, what policy issues do you focus on, and what are the views on the role of thinking tanks in shaping public disclosure? Discourse.
Yes. Yeah. So I left the Manhattan Institute like 2 years ago, so I haven't been there in a while. But they still they do great work. They did great work when I was there. They do great work now. Basically, I think think tanks correct some of the biases in American higher education. Right now, American higher ed has become very, very, very left wing. And you can just see that in the ratio of Democrat professors to Republican professors. And that can become a problem because you basically get an echo chamber. Whenever you get an echo chamber of people who all agree with one thing, they start getting sloppy and not noticing errors in scholarship or bias in scholarship. So the think tanks, and a lot of the think tanks are right wing, like Manhattan Institute is more of a conservative think tank, AEI, and these other conservative think tanks. I think they act as a good counterbalance to American higher education, so that if you look at the output of both of them, you can often get a good picture of what the truth is.
Okay. Do you ever see yourself being a professor or a teacher or something?
I don't know. Maybe, possibly.
In the future, right? What are some of the most interesting and unexpected conversations you had on your podcast, and how did you approach an interview with a guest with different viewpoints from your own?
Let's see. So, one of my less conventional episodes recently was with Christopher Paolini. Christopher Paolini is a fantasy author. He wrote the books. I don't know if you remember these. There was hit kind of fantasy children's books called Aragon, The Inheritance Cycle. Sort of like in the style of Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter, kind of like that genre. And I had never, yeah, I'd never really interviewed anyone like that before, because usually people I interview are journalists, scientists, people dealing in the nonfiction world. But this guy is dealing in the fiction world. So I thought I had a lot of fun interviewing him, and I think the interview went very well. But it was an interesting challenge for me to interview someone about fictional worlds that they created, because I don't usually do that.
Yeah, it would be hard for you to dive in and understand. Yeah, I can see that being difficult. What are some of the books and podcasts and other media that have influenced your thinking and writing? And what are the currently ones that you're reading or listening to?
So some of my favorite podcasts are Econ Talk with Russ Roberts, Conversations with Tyler Cowan, Making Sense with Sam Harris, Joe Rogan podcast, New York Times
Yeah,
Daily
classic.
Podcast. New York Times Daily Podcast. Eli Lake, The Re-Education with Eli Lake is excellent new podcast. Right now, I'm listening to honestly with Barry Weiss, and right now I'm listening to The Witch Trials of J.K. Rowling, which is a new podcast that Megan Phelps Roper is doing, where she's gotten the first, maybe the only ever like exclusive interview of J.K. Rowling, the author of the Harry Potter book series,
Okay.
and it's fantastic.
Yeah, bad. Yeah, these are good recommendations. What are your experience like testifying before the U.S. House Judiciary Subcommittee and the reparation for slavery, and how has that experience influenced your view on that topic?
Yeah, so that I naively went into that expecting that because it was a government function that somehow it would be organized and our safety and security would all be guaranteed and everything would run effectively and smoothly. Only to realize that it was a complete, part my French, shit show, because
Oh, why?
it was like there's almost no security, no control of over the crowd. I would say there's no security, but very little. And
How old are
people,
you?
I think I was 22. I'm 23. I was 23 actually. Yeah, there was just like very little control over the whole situation, and it was not a very useful exchange. Like it's like the opposite of one of my podcasts where we like thoughtfully go into a topic and explore all positions with an open mind.
Yeah.
Testifying is exactly the opposite. Everyone is just trying to get their 30 seconds of like video for cable news. Every politician has an agenda that they're trying to push, and it's just like bad faith all the way down. So it's not an experience that I would particularly want to do again or recommend.
Yeah. Yeah, it must be difficult. Yeah,
Yes.
just stressful. How do you think race relations have evolved over the course of your lifetime? And what do you think still needs to be done to address the issues of racial inequality in America?
So broadly, I think racism, especially racism against Black people, has been going down over the past many decades. It was very, very bad when my grandfather was a young man. It was better, but still not very good when my dad was a young man. And I think it's gotten a lot better today. I think a lot more people are aware that racial discrimination is a real thing. But and I expect it to continue to get better as people's attitudes get more and more enlightened, and as the world kind of like gets smaller and people are more used to diversity. Um, but I think what we have to do is just continue to stigmatize racism against any group of people, to be anti-Black,
Yeah.
anti-white, anti-Hispanic, anti-Asian. All of these kinds of this kind of hateful rhetoric should be stigmatized and discouraged. That's my point of view, and I think that's what we
Yeah,
need
it
to
might. Yeah, I think it might wash away with the next generations to come, just because of the diversity of culture, right? Like different races all in the same. Like here in Canada is like very diverse. Like there's people from everywhere. So like like there's not much. I don't see very much racism on or like watching kids play or whatever, like they're like it's not there anymore like it was back when I was a kid, like back in Brazil, right?
Right.
Yeah, hopefully that everything just, we are equal. Like no matter how much money you have in the bank, like you're still gonna go to the same place when you die, right? So I don't said myself personally, I don't have that superior. No, I'm not superior than no one. So it's unfair to me that people are still like a lot of people out there with the same, like the
Right.
same views. So I mean, being racist or whatever, it's wrong. Like,
Right.
yeah, it's just a few more questions. Yeah, I think probably two or three. Yeah. Your background in philosophy has likely informed your perspective on a range of topics, right? So could you discuss how your philosophical training has influenced your writing and podcasting, and how you apply, like what the concepts do you apply when you write contemporary issues, like when you write about things like.
Right. I would say philosophy is great because it usually gets you to ask the deepest and most precise questions about any area of knowledge. It gets you very focused on what concepts and words actually mean, and it just gets you like thinking very logically about sort of your models of the world. So I think I do bring a philosophical to everything I do, and I think that's one reason I'm able to have interesting conversations with people on all kinds of different topics, because I often think like a philosopher.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, we can see that trait on you too. You have been, oh sorry. Oh yeah, you have been recognized as one of the most promising young voices in the American politics and culture. What do you see your role in shaping the national conversations on issues of like race and inequality, and how do you plan to continue making an impact on the years to come?
Well, I'm going to keep doing what I've been doing. I'm releasing a book next year. That should be out February of next year, and I just hope to continue making my platform bigger and better and reaching more and more people.
Good. You can make more music too.
Yeah, absolutely.
In the rapidly changing media landscape, where do you see the future of the political discourse and debate, and how do you hope to to contribute to it in the future?
Like I said before, I think I just want to keep being a voice of reason and sanity, and keep uh, keep promoting the value of open-mindedness and honesty in the public conversation about all of these issues. I think I've been doing that, and I want to keep doing that.
Yeah, I hope you so. I hope you do too, because yeah, you probably don't see much now, like a difference now, but in a few years you see how much you influenced others on, sticking
Mhm.
with the truth and being honest and have morals, and well, that's really important. It was interesting meeting you. Hopefully we can keep in touch.
Sure.
Yeah, it was great. Thank you.